Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Muhammad wa Ahl Bayt at-Tayyibin at-Tahirin wa la'natullah ala a'da'ihim ajma'een. I want to start this class about ethics and morality, or what we call in Arabic Akhlaq. The Akhlaq of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. And the reason I chose to teach this class is because we see a lot of Muslims, but when we look at the character of people, they do not have the characteristics that we read about from the Akhlaq of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. We see a lot of people that are Muslim by name, but when we see their actions, they go otherwise. And I thought this would be a good subject to teach, to bring about realization of, and for us to examine and look at ourselves and see what type of actions we're doing, and look at the actions that we should do. We should study the lives of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and look at their history and their narrations and the way they live their life in order to gain examples and benefits from it. So I wanted to bring a book because typically in Hausa you study a book line by line and then give explanations. So the book that I'd like to bring for Akhlaq is called The Holy Household of Muhammad, Moral Exemplars by Sayed Mahdi al-Sadr. This book has come in many different titles with the same exact book, but it's been titled different. Also, it's been titled Ahlul Bayt, Ethical Role Models, and Akhlaq Ahlul Bayt. A few different titles that I've seen, but it's the exact same book. It's by Sayed Mahdi al-Sadr. So we'll start with the introduction to this book. Ethics is the discipline concerned with what is morally good and bad, right and wrong. It occupies a remarkable position among the other disciplines. Because of its significant subject and high principle, the noble traits are only means that achieve the high senses of humanity and perfection. The bad manners, on the other hand, deform man and line him up with beasts. And we see that Allah says in Surah al-Asr, Surah 103, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wal-Asr, inna al-insana lafi khasr, illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati wa tawassaw bil-haqqi wa tawassaw bis-sabr. By the passing of time, verily mankind is in loss, except those who believe and do good deeds. So we see that mankind would be in loss unless they believe and they do good deeds. These two go hand in hand. Believing alone is not sufficient, but we need to also have good deeds and good manners and good morality. But how do we achieve that if we do not know what the good manners and the good traits that will lead to perfection are? So it's necessary that we need to study the science of Akhlaq in order to gain this insight on how to become better human beings. He continues, not only do moralities have influence on individuals, but also they creep into nations to reflect their modes of life and levels of development or retraction. Many historical events have proven that moral corruption has been the destructive acts that ruin civilizations. So we see that morals are what shapes a civilization and shapes individuals, and it shows if they are developed or or underdeveloped. A lot of times we can look at places in the West and we can see that they're far advanced in technology, but when we look at the ethics and the morality, they are lacking in this department, and they're lacking in spirituality because they've cast the religions to the side, and belief in God is cast to the side, and they don't take their guidance from an infallible, from a prophet or an imam. So they're left to go whichever way pleases them, and they don't have any moral code of conduct, just whatever makes them feel good or what feels right to them. And this has been the destructive acts that ruin civilizations. So immorality could be as in a destructive acts that ruined a whole civilization. And he continues back to the text. As a proof of the significance of morality is that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam considered morality as the aim of his divine mission. He said, I was appointed for prophethood so that I may accomplish moral perfection. So the Prophet is saying that he is appointed for prophethood so that he can teach and morality to the mankind and to perfect their morality. This is the very purpose at which ethics aims through its regulations and standards that discipline the individual's consciences and rectify their moralities and guide to the reputable conduct and ideal behavior. So we see that the purpose of ethics is to discipline one's conscience, and it rectifies their bad behaviors that they might have or be inclined to. When they know about akhlaq, it will discipline them and show them the right ways to behave with all of mankind. And this is through training oneself through akhlaq. This is how we gain the good morality and be good examples for other people to follow, to come to Islam and learn about Ahlul Bayt. Because we see that one of the Imams alayhi salam said that to teach through your actions and not just your words. So teach through your actions, not just your words. So we need to have good behavior in order to teach other people through our actions. And this will draw them closer to wanting to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the deen of al-Islam. The courses of ethical researches vary among the past and present scholars. Some go beyond the limits to make the matter dull and inapplicable. Others subjugate it to their personal traditions, surroundings, and habits to divest it of the traits of perfection. This in fact makes such courses different and unfit to be immortal ethical constitution for humankind. So some people make this subject very boring and dull, and they go too far into it and talk about things that aren't applicable. And other people bring their cultural habits and traditions and try to merge them into the Akhlaq of Ahl Bayt and the religion of Islam, and try to, promote their cultural traditions, which are not part of Islam. Through comparative studies, it is clearly noticeable that the best course in this regard is the Islamic one, that is taken from the Holy Quran and the moralities of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So we see that the best way to study and approach the science of akhlaq is to come from the Holy Quran and the morality of Ahlul Bayt, because the Prophet left for us two weighty things, the Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and we know that these two will never separate from each other. This course is characterized by moderation, genuineness of principle, and suitableness to the different ages and ideas. Basically, this course could be for everyone. Young age or old age, this will benefit everybody to know about akhlaq and ethical behavior. Because of its distinctive features, it is the one and only course that takes people on both levels of individuals and communities towards ethical perfection and high moral standards in such an exciting style, prepossessing minds and hearts and achieving perfection in shorter time and an easier way. Furthermore, it represents the excellence of the divine revelation as well as the wisdom of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, who progressed in the light of that revelation and understood its concepts to present it in the form of expressive wisdom, high trait, and moral lessons, whose illumination and purity focus on souls to clean and enlighten them through virtuous concepts. So we see that through the light of revelation and the examples of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, through their wisdom and character and moral lessons, that we can purify our souls and clean our souls and focus on implementing these virtuous concepts that they have taught to reach a level a higher level and a closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they are our role models in life. This is why this book has also been called Ahlul Bayt, ethical role models, or moral exemplars, because they are the ones that we should follow in living our life and implementing morals and ethics. If some people will be guided and others will not, this will definitely not cause any defect to the instructions of the Islamic course. This will be ascribed to the variation of people's natures and readiness to accept the concepts of guidance. So if some people believe and some people don't believe, some people are guided and some people are not, it's not because of any defect in the Islamic teachings or Islamic course, but rather it's the nature of that person who's not ready to accept the concepts of the guidance. It is quite unfortunate to see Muslims, after having been the leaders of nations and pioneers to virtues, lose their positions because of their deviation from the moralities of Islam. Thus they have been plunging in lowly manners of moral corruption. They are required, if they intend to regain their dignity and good reputation, to restudy their vast moral heritage. If they do so, they will reacquire people's trust and admiration and will be the best of nation raised up for the benefit of mankind. So we see that the Muslims had a very high status and they were leaders of the nations back in older times, and they had a good society, and through them deviating from the course of the moralities that they were taught and the morality of the religion, and they started adopting bad behaviors and bad manners and corruption, that they have lost their status and they've lost their dignity. We see, if you look at any Middle Eastern country, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of wrongdoing and oppression. And this is because they strayed away from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. In order to get back to this, they need to study the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and the morality of Ahlul Bayt in order to examine their life and where they went wrong and how to get back to the right track. I remember one of the late scholars, he would say that it was a shame to see people immigrating to the West and they were running away from the Islamic countries, the so-called Islamic countries. And it should have been the other way around. The Islamic countries should have been so good that the people in the West would try to come to them and live there. But unfortunately, due to what we were saying above, in the topic above, that they left these manners, that they've deviated away from the course, and now no one wants to be there, and everyone is trying to get away due to the hardships and the oppression and the lack of morality. They have gone in a deprived state. Such a precious hope cannot be attained without the cooperation of the sincere personalities in the fields of enlightening and enjoining Muslims to adhere to the Islamic moralities, as well as publicizing its constructive concepts to present them in an attractive way so as to incite people to study and to follow. This is saying that we need to, it needs to have people who teach akhlaq and moralities and, show how it would benefit people and show it in an attractive way in order to make people want to learn about it and study about it and implement these things in their life. This hope insisted on me to write this book and plan it on the focus of the following features. Number 1, this work does not comprise the entire scope of ethics. It only includes its most important topics that affect people's lives the most. I did my best to avoid scientific terms and mysterious expressions and presented the matter in a strong, clear-cut style. Number 2, I chose hadiths and narratives that are recorded in the most reliable reference books. Number 3, I paid as much possible attention to the advantages of the noble traits and disadvantages of their bad manners, in addition to the reference to their spiritual and material effects on both the individuals and on communities. It is worth mentioning that moderation is the ethical criterion in evaluating the moral virtues. This moderation should be away from excess and negligence. The acceptable morality is that which lies in the middle between exaggeration and negligence. So we see that in the Quran, Allah told us that we take a middle course. So we don't exaggerate, and we also are not neglectful, but we take a course in between, the middle course. We're balanced people and moderate people. If such an accepted morality leaves the center to the extreme or of exaggeration or that of negligence, it will turn into a bad morality. Any exaggeration in chastity leads to indolence, and any negligence will lead to greed. Courage, as another example, is a virtue lying between the two vices of rashness and cowardice. In consequence, the persistence on virtues has become one of the noble aims, as acting as matters of competition for the self-determined and ambitious people. So he used an example of courage that it's between two extremes, one of being rash and one of being a coward. And if you go to the right or to the left in either manner, then you will deviate from the middle course and the course of moderation. And the author concludes his introduction. He says, I hope God would accept and reward for me for this humble effort out of his outspread kind and great generosity. I also hope that he would lead me as well as my faithful brothers to success. Allah is surely the worthiest of guiding and success. So this is the introduction to the book, and we see that how beneficial it will be to study Akhlaq, and how we can take ourselves accountable for our actions and look at ourselves throughout this course and see how we can reform ourselves and start implementing these good moralities in our lives one by one as we learn them, as we move through the book. And by the time we finish this book, we should have implemented all of these great characteristics that the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam portrayed in their and lived in their daily lives. And this will help us get closer to being good servants of Imam Zaman, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And it will also attract people to us to say, wow, this person is such a nice person. He has such great manners. Where did you learn these things from? And then you have an opportunity to tell them that you learned them from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And it will guide others just through your behavior without you even having to speak. It will show them what a high status and how close that Ahlul Bayt were to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that they were the living examples and the proofs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the earth, and that we should take our guidance from them, because you will never find anybody on this earth with better morality than Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And when you look around at people, the Muslim community, or anyone in general, in humanity, actually, you will never find anyone with such high qualities as described in this book about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So I hope that through this effort of teaching Akhlaq, I myself will be able to study these characteristics and implement them, and you listening will also be able to implement these, and that we can become closer in brotherhood and build stronger and close-knit communities, and we will all be on the same accord. And because I think a lot of the differences and debates and problems come within the Shia community within itself is due to akhlaq issues. Because if they were implementing the good akhlaq, then we would see that we would not have so many quarrels or squabbles or we wouldn't have so many problems with each other, with people not speaking to each other, or people behaving badly with each other, or cheating each other, or all of the bad moralities that we see within our communities. These would be lessened because of the knowledge of akhlaq and implementing akhlaq. And it all comes down to that we should strive to want to follow and be good servants of the Imam, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And may Allah help us with that. And I will conclude this introduction here, and we will start to get into the first chapter in the next class. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى أبائه فهذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا معينا حتى تسكناه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن أعداءهم.